Thanks for tuning in. Here's my new lift. Pretty excited to have this in the shop. As you can see, it fits the Miata just fine. If I backed it on, I'd be able to actually get the Firebird underneath. Let's show you how I got this installed. This was the scene a few days ago. As you can see, the Miata was on the ground. Very difficult to work on, even with the cribbing, and I decided it was time to put a 4-post lift in. I ordered the lift from Mechanic Superstore. They have a pickup facility in Fort Worth. This is us driving to the Fort Worth location, and I'm going with a Triumph NSS-8 If you ever make the drive yourself here in Texas, it's actually at the National Tools facility, and then you have to pull around back to actually pick up your stuff once you check in at the front. So apparently we check in the front. Now we're waiting to get loaded. Should come out that door there.
There we go. All strapped down.
Now, I didn't film the loading process, but it literally took the guy 5 minutes to get it loaded on the trailer. Awesome experience, great forklift work. 10/10 would recommend.
All right, we're back home. We just got to get the Miata out of the shop, and then we should be able to load this. All right, let's pull this thing out. Obviously, the bumper's not attached. And then we'll back the lift in and see how far we can get.
We'll leave this in as a time lapse here, but backing into this garage, it's a little tough with the Miata parked where it is and the storage container workshop there. You can see I'll have to actually make a second attempt. Didn't quite get it in smooth on the first shot, but this trailer does back up pretty well. First time actually trying to back this trailer in with this truck, so pretty happy it only took one crack. There we are, we're in and ready to go. Unloading this can be a real bear. The first attempt here was I'm going to use an engine crane or something of that sort to try to unload it while it's in the garage. You can see the wife is out here to help me with coal, mostly just to supervise. This worked decently well, but as you see here, after I unload the first, there's a lot of fiddling around to try to get it off with just an engine crane. So after I unloaded the one and had to get my tractor to lift it off, I decided to actually just pull the trailer out and use the tractor to unload it every piece by piece.
So I'm just looping around and then tying it back up. Well, that was fun, and we didn't die doing it. Sometimes part of unloading stuff is realizing you're going about it wrong. But we got it all in here. Clean up the trailer and then park that and take the wife to dinner, and then I'll get started on this. But there's everything. I used 2 furniture dollies for the ramps because those are heavy. The posts you can manage, and I bet you the cross beams are probably 100 pounds or so, and I was able to move that. So there it is, one deconstructed lift. We'll get you set up after our return and get going.
All right, next morning, we're gonna start going through the instructions here. It actually comes with instructions now. I know a lot of people complain that they don't, but they do come with instructions now. So we've got all the different parts aligned, and we're gonna start with part 1 here and get everything aligned and get ready. Now I've decided to put my pump and the controls on this back side. So when you do that, make sure your cables are near that post. The instructions will label them A, B, C, D, and front and back. I'm doing mine inverted in the instructions because I wanted the controls at the back of the shop, as you can see here. If you're still with me and you saw me struggle bust my way through mounting the posts onto these cross beams, here's a tip. Do it on the ground. That way you can stand it up when you're done and get it all aligned. Here's that finished look. Now I'm locking them in at 1 bar up so I can get the ramps in and out underneath. So now we got to go over to the other side and install. As you can see, it's time consuming, a couple of 22 millimeters to hold these ramps to the cross beams. And then you just got to put the second one in and you should be all set to go. And you'll be done with step 1.
So that's step 1. Make sure you're putting the long bolts over here, and these are your ramp hooks, right? So have it out. I'll probably end up sliding over a little bit more this way. I haven't decided yet. For now, we're just going to put it here because I could get a car through here, it'd be pretty tight, but even just a foot more that way is going to be critical. So the next step is going to be cable routing. From here, it's kind of home free, right? It's routing cables and hooking up electrical and all that other stuff. So I'm going to take a break and then we'll come back for this. Okay, we're putting the safety locks in. Now, if you're setting your lift up like mine, where you're gonna put your power post back here, pay attention to this setup here. Your lift rods are supposed to push through here, but that's not gonna work in this scenario. It didn't line up on the front. So you can unscrew these and spin them around. And you want essentially to lock the safety handle to be by your pump. So on this side, I'll show you what I ended up doing. Now this is just loosely in place. So I just spun them around. Now, if you're just watching this video all the way through, before you start, put your short rods, well, you're gonna have to, I guess what I could have done is I could have put, no, this is the way I would have had to do it, so I just had to swap it. Another thing I had to do that's taken some time is this cable and this cable were flipped over here. And by that I mean there's some rollers right down in here. Get in there. Yeah, and this cable was coming out and actually hitting this nut here, which is no good. So your out cables need to be on the bottom rollers. Out cables being whatever way your pump is, the other side that doesn't have the ram in it. So the ram's right here. The cables need to be on the bottom sets of rollers. If you need to pull apart the ram to route the cables, you can. Oliver, you help in? He wants to know why his lift isn't done. Well, that's it. We're gonna finish the safety up and then we're gonna move on to hydraulics and electrical. So we got all the safety locks installed, both sides now. Just 14 millimeter jam nuts. Those are 10s. It may need some more tweaks or whatnot. This is where this bar ended up, but I think that'll work pretty good. And should be able to push and unlock it while I'm still operating. So next step is hang the lift. All right, next up, you want to hang the power unit. Just the shorter bolts. Then it's running hydraulics.
in and operational and running off a 20 amp circuit. So now let's convert it to the 30 amps it requires. I'm just going to run some 10.2 MC from the pump along the ceiling area and then over to the breaker box here, which is going to be about 25 feet to run it over and up. Before we can run the electrical, we actually need to be able to move the lift into its final location so I get the cord links right. So here I'm assembling the 4 roller casters, and I'm just kind of seeing how everything goes together. Now it's going to be a couple of cotter pins and washers on those bars. Those bars actually insert in, and you just do this 4 times. So 4 nuts and screws and washers and whatnot per lift. And again, you pull the pins, you put it in through the lift, and that end will just go on the cross beam there, just like that. Now you're about ready to lift it up. Now before you can use the lift hydraulics to kind of lift itself up off the ground and move it into place, you got to make sure that all of your locks are level. So what I'm doing here is I'm just measuring, and I'm noticing that that lock's not even engaged. So that means I need to lengthen or shorten the cables. Now my back corner all the way away from the hydraulic is my longest cable, so that's going to be the one I can't obviously lengthen. So it's going to be a game of just adjusting the rest until I actually get from the lock to the bottom of the lock piece here. And now we're all set. When I engage the locks, all 4 of them pop out evenly. As you can see, they all open up and lock out. And then I can actually lower this thing down evenly and level. So we're going to zoom in here. You can see the locks are disengaging and engaging nice and cleanly all the way around. It's important to get your cables the same length and the locks at the same height before you go to move the lift. The next step is to essentially lower the lift onto the arms. You want to make sure they're lined up. Here you can see it's a little bit loose here, but I've got everything aligned. I'm not going to pinch any cables or anything like that. Check all 4 corners again, make sure it's coming down even and level and plumb. And the whole concept here is by lowering the ram and essentially the crossbars onto the wheels and levers, you're lifting the columns up off the ground. You're going to get just enough room with the lift all the way lowered to be able to slide it around easily. One man to push it, really slick process. Now they do tell you that you do not want to move it with a vehicle on there. That makes perfect sense to me because it's just more pressure on the hydraulic system's more weight. Now it might be hard to see here, but you can see I'm actually rocking the lift back and forth with my foot, which will make positioning this really easy. I've tossed the ramp on in this picture and video so you can actually see what that plan is. And you can see the posts off the ground. So the idea is I'm going to cut away this section of mat and slide it on over to where it's essentially in line and flush with the edge of the post. So I want to move it over just 6 inches to a foot to where it's tucked behind to give me the maximum amount of room to the left of the lift. So let's go ahead and get that done here. Before I actually move it here, we're going to take a measurement from the corner post of the garage door to the lift currently, just to see how much room I have and how much room I'm going to gain with this work. It's actually significant enough to be able to pull a car in and out. So you can see I've got about 100 inches or so. Got the 10.2 cable routed, and the plan is to put a box up in that corner and then run a 25-foot cable across the top and make sure everything's connected with that disconnect. Here I'm making the bracket. I'm going to put the box right here, so I will have a safety disconnect at the lift. Just go ahead and mount that there. We're going to paint that bracket up real quick. Going to mount just a 2-gang box with that safety push in the middle. That way I can connect the factory connection to the 10.2 wire.
Got the bracket mounted and painted. So now we're set. We're gonna cut this end, shove that in here, cut that end, shove that in here, and put my switch on.
There's the RV box mounted. You can see I've already got the 1 cable end in, and we're just gonna loosely drape it. That's gonna be tied to the ceiling. Cut the end off. Be careful stripping back the wire. Stuff the wire into the top side. Strip it off. Now we're going to put it into the back of this. There's line and load. I'm not an electrician, so you're going to have to do your own research, but load is essentially one way for power to flow. Line is the other. Make sure you're on the right side. Here you can see I've got everything connected on the right side here. Now we're going to connect the other side for the input, otherwise known as the load side. That goes to the device. The line is the stuff that's taking it away. We're going to use a twist connection for the grounds, and here we are, final state. Everything's in. Push button stop, so that way if I have an issue, I can kill power to the lift assembly without having to unplug it or run across the shop and grab a breaker. Attach the cord to the ceiling out of the way, wire in the panel. 120 volt standard wiring system. Make sure you're connecting everything correctly.
And it works. A little tight clearance. I'm not going to be able to get the Firebird underneath it from a storage perspective when the Miata's pulled on. It might fit when it's backed on. We'll have to get some measurements. There it is.
I hope you found this informative. If you did, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. This lift is going to provide a tremendous amount of value as I continue to mod these vehicles. Put any comments you have or questions you do in the comments below. Happy to answer, as I installed this just recently.